Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the president of Burkina Faso, has summoned Bianca Ojukwu for a private meeting following accusations against her related to a helicopter attack in southeastern Nigeria, allegedly carried out with Nigerian military involvement. The United States of Biafra, USB government, has sued both the Nigerian and Finnish governments at the International Court of Justice, ICJ, over what they call transnational repression against Simon Ekpa, the Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra. The Biafra government alleges that Bianca Ojukwu aided the Nigerian government in military operations that resulted in deaths in southeastern Nigeria, prompting Ibrahim Traoré's demand for a direct explanation from her. Simon Ekpa's legal team, led by lawyer Kalgmerus, has requested the ICJ to pause Finland's trial against Simon Ekpa, arguing that Finland cannot try him for terrorism since IPOB, the indigenous people of Biafra, is not officially recognized as a terror group by Finland or the International Court, ICJ. The ICJ documents classify IPOB as a separatist group, not a terrorist organization, contradicting the Nigerian government's labeling and strengthening Simon Ekpa's legal position. The Finnish Ministry of Justice confirmed that the Nigeria government has not submitted an official request to extradite Simon Ekpa, despite media reports claiming otherwise. Ibrahim Traoré and Russia's leader are reportedly collaborating to support Simon Ekpa's defense at the ICJ, positioning it as a strategic international alliance. Massive corruption was exposed in southeastern Nigeria, where police and military allegedly extorted N21.8 billion from road users in just 2 months. A southeastern polytechnic with only 30 students reportedly received billions of naira in federal education funds, sparking accusations of a large-scale scam under investigation by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Despite regional crises, southeastern governors, particularly Anambra's governor, are criticized for prioritizing loyalty to President Tinubu over protecting their constituents from extortion and misgovernance. In a world where political and legal storms seem to collide more frequently than ever, one particular story stands out from the heart of West Africa to the high offices of the International Court of Justice. It is the unfolding drama surrounding Simon Ekpa, the self-declared Prime Minister of the United States of Biafra, and a cascade of events that are gripping not just Nigeria and Finland, but also drawing unexpected players like Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the leader of Burkina Faso, and even involving Bianca Odumegwu Ojukwu, the widow of Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, the late Biafran warlord. At the center of this swirling storm is a web of accusations, international legal maneuvering, political alliances, and long-standing grievances tied to the dream of a Biafran state. Simon Ekpa has been a controversial figure ever since he took up the mantle of leadership for the self-proclaimed United States of Biafra, a breakaway entity made up of southeastern states in Nigeria. He has become the voice of separatist ambitions that go far beyond online activism. To his supporters, he is a bold voice fighting for the freedom of a historically marginalized people. To his critics, he is a provocateur, stirring instability. And now, to some European institutions, he is a man facing legal scrutiny under accusations of extremism. But for all that controversy, Simon Ekpa recently received a major boost from the International Court of Justice, one that could alter the trajectory of his legal and political future. It all began when the government of the United States of Biafra under Simon Ekpa's administration, officially filed a legal complaint at the International Court of Justice against two countries, the Republic of Finland and the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This case alleges what they have called transnational repression against their leader. The idea behind this claim is simple, yet weighty. Simon Ekpa's legal team, led by a Finnish lawyer identified in the documents as Kalgmirus, argues that Nigeria, through indirect pressure, has been trying to silence him using legal instruments in Finland. And this, they claim, is being done under the false pretense that the indigenous people of Biafra is a terrorist organization. But here is the crucial point that has tilted the case in Simon Ekpa's favor. According to official documents presented to the International Court of Justice, the indigenous people of Biafra is not legally classified as a terrorist organization by either Finland or the International Court. Instead, it is seen as a separatist group advocating for the independence of southeastern Nigeria. That distinction is not just symbolic. It forms the backbone of Simon Ekpa's defense. His lawyer told the court that Finland has no jurisdiction to prosecute someone for terrorism when the group in question has not been recognized as a terrorist organization by their own legal standards or by the international community. Even more significant was a statement from Finland's Ministry of Justice. Despite claims in the Nigerian press suggesting that Simon Ekpa was about to be extradited to Nigeria, Finnish authorities clarified that no such request had officially been received. In an email shared with the public, the Finnish ministry stated explicitly that they had not received any formal application from the Nigerian government requesting Simon Ekpa's extradition. This development exposed a gap between media narratives and the realities of diplomatic processes. It also helped deflate much of the pressure that was building around Simon Ekpa's legal troubles in Finland. Still, the tension did not stop there. A more dramatic twist came when the president of Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim Traoré, stepped into the picture. Known for his firm leadership style and nationalist rhetoric, Captain Ibrahim Traoré invited Bianca Ojukwu for a private and urgent meeting. The reason, according to sources within the Burkina Faso government, is directly related to an incident involving a helicopter attack in southeastern Nigeria. The United States of Biafra government accused the Nigerian military of carrying out the attack, and they alleged that Bianca Ojukwu played a role by assisting the federal government in the operation. This allegation sent shockwaves through Biafran political circles and beyond. Bianca Ojukwu, once the First Lady of Biafra by marriage, has long represented a symbolic connection to the original Biafran dream. For her name to be mentioned in such a violent and controversial context was not only unexpected, but deeply jarring. The accusation suggested a betrayal of her roots. Captain Ibrahim Traoré reportedly demanded a direct explanation. He expressed his confusion and disappointment over why someone tied to the legacy of Biafra would collaborate in actions that allegedly harmed innocent civilians in the region. In fact, the statement from Captain Ibrahim Traoré was not limited to internal circles. He publicly requested a meeting with Bianca Ojukwu, offering to host it anywhere, be it in Africa or Europe. The goal, he said, was to understand her side of the story and determine the truth behind the accusations. His intervention is believed to be part of a broader move to position Burkina Faso as a key ally of emerging African separatist or nationalist movements, particularly those resisting Western and post-colonial influences. The involvement of Russia's leadership in Simon Ekpa's defense strategy added another layer of geopolitical complexity. It was reported that Russia and Burkina Faso had entered into a form of alliance, offering moral and perhaps legal support to Simon Ekpa at the International Court of Justice. Russia's interest, while not fully explained, is likely tied to broader strategic interests in Africa. Supporting separatist movements that challenge Western-aligned governments could serve Russia's goal of expanding influence across the continent. But as this international legal and political drama played out, more revelations were pouring out of southeastern Nigeria. A disturbing report from Vanguard newspaper revealed that police and military personnel in the region had extorted an estimated 21.8 billion naira from road users in just 2 months. This figure, when broken down, amounts to more than 360 million naira per day. These roadblocks, often justified under the guise of security operations, have become notorious for bribe collection and abuse. Citizens have long complained, but this is the first time such a large-scale investigation has put numbers to the suffering. The silence or inaction from the governors of southeastern states, particularly the governor of Anambra State, has not gone unnoticed. Critics say that instead of confronting these abuses or advocating for reforms, the governors have been more focused on maintaining good relations with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. For many, this symbolizes a tragic betrayal of their people who continue to suffer under both economic hardship and institutional abuse. The situation became even more disheartening when another story broke, this time reported by The Guardian newspaper. A polytechnic in the southeastern region, with only 30 registered students, was discovered to have received billions of naira in federal educational funds over several years. The scale of the fraud has shocked many, especially given the dire educational needs of the region. The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission has reportedly launched an investigation into what is being described as one of the most blatant financial scams involving educational grants. As for Simon Ekpa, his legal team has made a formal request to the International Court of Justice to pause any proceedings related to his trial in Finland. They argue that until the issue of IPOB's classification is resolved internationally, it would be inappropriate for Finland to proceed with charges that assume Simon Ekpa is part of a terrorist group. Documents submitted to the court confirm that IPOB is officially considered a separatist movement, not a terrorist one. That distinction is expected to shield Simon Ekpa from certain legal liabilities, at least for now. Meanwhile, back in Finland, there are indications that President Alexander Stubb may hold a meeting with Vice President Kashim Shettima of Nigeria. The purpose of the meeting is unclear, but political analysts believe it could involve discussions about how to diplomatically manage the tensions surrounding Simon Ekpa's case. It is unknown whether extradition will be discussed, but it is clear that the Finnish government is moving cautiously, aware of the growing international scrutiny. This complex web of events reflects how deeply interconnected our world has become. A separatist leader in Nigeria can now pull in legal challenges in Europe, diplomatic tensions in West Africa, and political support from Russia. The lines between national sovereignty, international law, and personal allegiances have blurred. Simon Ekpa, whether seen as a freedom fighter or a disruptor, has become a central figure in a much larger struggle about who has the right to speak, resist, and lead. As of now, the outcome of Simon Ekpa's legal battles remains uncertain. But what is clear is that his case has forced the world to pay closer attention to the lingering issues in Nigeria's southeast. The accusations against Bianca Ojukwu have opened a painful debate about loyalty and betrayal within the Biafran movement. Captain Ibrahim Traoré's involvement has elevated what might have remained a domestic issue into a regional crisis. And with financial corruption exposed, trust in local leadership continues to erode. All eyes are now on the International Court of Justice. Its eventual ruling on Simon Ekpa's case could set a major precedent for how separatist leaders are treated internationally, especially when their movements are not formally designated as terrorist organizations. Meanwhile, Simon Ekpa's supporters remain defiant, hopeful that the court will affirm what they have always believed, that their leader is a political figure, not a criminal, and that their dream of a Biafran state is not a crime, but a right they intend to pursue, legally and peacefully. If the court leans in Simon Ekpa's favor, it could not only halt Finland's proceedings, but also create a ripple effect across Europe and Africa, forcing countries to rethink how they interact with self-determination movements. And if it rules against him, it could embolden those who believe that Biafran activism must be suppressed for Nigeria's unity. Either way, what began as a regional political agitation has now become a landmark case in the international legal and political arena, a case that continues to unfold before our eyes. As the days passed, following the statement issued by the International Court of Justice in favor of Simon Ekpa's legal team, attention intensified across African diplomatic corridors. What was once a relatively obscure international legal complaint had now captured headlines in major European and African capitals. At the core of it was a fundamental question that international institutions had long been unwilling to address. Does a people's demand for self-determination qualify as a national security threat? Simon Ekpa's case has forced legal scholars, diplomats, and political activists to re-examine the often uncomfortable relationship between international law and African internal politics. In most African states, any movement that threatens national unity, no matter how non-violent, is often branded as a security risk. Governments, including Nigeria's, have long treated separatist agitators not as political actors, but as criminals. But what the International Court of Justice did, by recognizing that IPOB is not on any official terrorist list, and therefore that its leadership cannot automatically be treated as terrorists, was to challenge that automatic branding system. It created a window of legitimacy for Simon Ekpa, and that window, once opened, allowed a flood of support to come rushing in. Activist groups across Europe, particularly from Scandinavian nations and German-speaking territories, began organizing solidarity rallies calling for justice in his case. These demonstrations were small but symbolically powerful. Banners calling for the rights of indigenous peoples in Nigeria appeared outside Nigerian embassies in Oslo, Stockholm, and Berlin. A new narrative was forming, one that painted Simon Ekpa not just as a Nigerian dissident, but as a freedom fighter being suppressed by a global alliance of powerful interests. This shift in narrative did not go unnoticed in Abuja, Nigeria's federal capital. Within the corridors of the Nigerian presidency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration was reportedly engaged in high-level consultations on how to respond to this growing international attention. Vice President Kashim Shettima, who was rumored to be traveling soon to Europe for bilateral talks, was specifically tasked with managing the political fallout. There were fears that if the International Court of Justice ultimately ruled against Finland and Nigeria, it would embolden other separatist groups across Nigeria, not just in the southeast, but in the Niger Delta and parts of the Middle Belt. One source within the presidency, speaking anonymously, revealed that some cabinet members were beginning to doubt the wisdom of aggressively pursuing Simon Ekpa abroad. They feared it might backfire and lend his movement more legitimacy. But others, including some within the Military and National Security Council, maintained a hardline stance. They argued that allowing Simon Ekpa to continue broadcasting from Finland without interruption would lead to more violence on the ground, especially since his weekly online broadcasts are often followed by sit-at-home orders that shut down economic activity in southeastern Nigeria. In the southeastern region itself, tensions continued to rise. Citizens found themselves caught between government crackdowns and the demands of the separatist movement. This is the end of our news update. Please click the icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.